The imperfect is a verb form, found in various languages, which combines past tense and imperfective aspect. It can therefore have meanings similar to the English was walking, or used to walk. It contrasts with preterite forms, which refer to a single completed event in the past. Traditionally, the imperfect of languages such as Latin and French is referred to as one of the tenses, although in fact it encodes aspectual information in addition to tense. It may be more precisely called past imperfective. When used in relation to English, imperfect refers to forms much more commonly called past progressive or past continuous. These are combinations of past tense with specifically continuous or progressive aspect. The term can take on specific conventional meanings in the grammars of particular languages. In German, imperfect was used to refer to the simply conjugated past tense, but the term praecurrency is now preferred, since the form does not carry any implication of imperfective aspect. Imperfect comes from the Latin imperfectus unfinished, because the imperfect expresses an ongoing, uncompleted action. The equivalent ancient Greek term was paratiteka cubed s prolonged. Indo-European languages. English equals. Imperfect meanings in English are expressed in different ways depending on whether the event is continuous or habitual. For a continuous action, the past progressive form is used, as in I was eating. They were running fast. However, certain verbs that express state rather than action do not mark the progressive aspect. In these cases the simple past tense is used instead, he was hungry. We knew what to do next. Habitual action in the past can be marked by used to, as in I used to eat a lot, or by the modal verb would, as in back then, I would eat early and would walk to school. However, in many cases the habitual nature of the action does not need to be explicitly marked on the verb, and the simple past is used, we always ate dinner at 6 o'clock. Romance languages equals. Latin, conjugation of the imperfect indicative, notes, the imperfect is signified by the signs bar and eber. The imperfect forms of esse are used as auxiliary verbs in the pluperfect of the passive voice along with perfect passive participles. In Romance languages, the imperfect is generally a past tense. Its uses include representing, repetition and continuity, an action that was happening, used to happen, or happened regularly in the past, as it was ongoing, a description of people, things, or conditions of the past, a time in the past, a relation between past happenings, a situation that was in progress in the past or a condition originated in a previous time, when another isolated and important event occurred. A physical or mental state or condition in progress in the past. Often used with verbs of being, emotion, capability, or conscience. The following verbs are often used in the imperfect in several Romance languages. A common mistake of beginners learning a Romance language is putting too much emphasis on whether the time the action occurred is known. This generally does not affect how the imperfect is used. For example, the sentence "someone ate all of my cookies" is not a good candidate for the imperfect. Fundamentally, it is no different from the sentence "we ate all the cookies." Note this fails the repeatability requirement of the imperfect, as it is only known to have happened once. On the other hand, the sentence "I used to have fun in the 1960s" is a good candidate for the imperfect, even though its period is known. In short, knowing when an action occurred is not nearly as important as how long it occurred. French, to form the imperfect for French regular verbs, take the present tense for example nous form, subtract the ons ending, and add the appropriate ending. Examples, usage, 1. Habitual actions or states of being, 2. Physical and emotional descriptions, time, weather, age, feelings, 3. Actions or states of an unspecified duration, 4. Background information in conjunction with the passer copyright composer copyright, 5. Wishes or suggestions, 6. Conditions in C clauses, 7. The expressions at entrendi and venirdi in the past, notes, verbs that terminate in a stem of che and ger undergo minor orthographic changes to preserve the phonetic sound or allophone. Verbs whose root terminates in the letter I maintain the letter despite the consecutiveness in the nous, and vis forms. Italian, conjugation of the imperfect indicative, notes, dropping the re suffix and adding vo, vi, va, vamo, vate, and vono form verbs. Although dia and opor may seem irregular, they are a part of a verb family that has stronger roots to Latin equivalents. Other verbs include fare, infinitive, /factio, present tense, /passivo, imperfect, berabevivo, traretrovo, dereducivo, obs. And all their composite forms. There is another imperfect in Italian formed by combining the imperfect of the verb stare with a gerund. For example, parlevo could be said as stavo parlando. The difference is similar to the difference between I eat and I am eating in English. However, English does not make this distinction in the imperfect. Romanian, conjugation of the imperfect indicative, notes, the imperfect is formed from the short infinitive form of the verbs combined with the am, I, a, am, aoi, and or endings. Short infinitives ending in a euro or euro don't double this letter, for example pilcar euro in the first person singular is plicam, and not pilcam. Short infinitives ending in I take the pattern of those ending in e, while short infinitives ending in a registered trademark take the pattern of those ending in a. There is only one irregular verb in the imperfect, a fee, that is created from the radical era, instead of fee. Spanish, in Spanish, the imperfect can be called the imperfecto or the copyright rito. Conjugation of the imperfect indicative, there are only three irregular verbs in the imperfect, a, ser, and ver. Historically, unlike other Spanish verbs failed to drop the b of the Latin imperfect. The imperfect of ser is likewise a continuation of the Latin imperfect, with the same stem appearing in tares. And the imperfect of ver was regular in Old Spanish, where the infinitive vir provided the stem ve. The first-person singular and third-person singular forms are the same for all verbs. Thus, in cases of ambiguity where context is insufficient, a pronoun or subject noun is included for the sake of clarification. Portuguese, in Portuguese, the imperfect indicative, called copyright rito imperfecto, is quite similar to Spanish. However, it is important to remember that in the formal Portuguese, the pronouns tu and var cubed s are often replaced respectively by voca and voca s, and then the verb is conjugated like the third person. Persian equals, like all other past tenses, imperfect is conjugated regularly for all verbs. Formation, preverb plus me plus past stem plus past ending. Slavic languages equals, most Slavic languages have lost the imperfect but it is preserved in Bulgarian and Macedonian. It is also officially retained in Serbian and Croatian but is considered old-fashioned and restricted to literature for poetic and stylistic reasons. Turkish has separate tenses for past continuous and imperfect. To form the past continuous tense for Turkish verbs, after removing the infinitive suffix, take the present continuous tense suffix -ur without personal suffixes, and add the ending for the simple past plus the appropriate personal suffix, as do, which has a rounded back vowel, succeeds la, which has an unrounded back vowel, instead of -ur, which has a rounded back vowel. When the subject is the third person plural on la, it becomes da plus or minus, which has an unrounded back vowel. If a verb ends in t, it may change into d. If a verb ends in open vowels, the open vowels become closed while adding -ur, a becomes I if the preceding vowel is unrounded, u if it is rounded, e becomes I if the preceding vowel is unrounded, a 1/4 if it is rounded. If the verb ends in a consonant, the auxiliary vowel I must be added before -ur. It becomes I, u or a 1/4 depending on the frontness and roundedness of the preceding vowel. Because of the vowel harmony, I if the preceding vowel is e or I, front unrounded, gel I if the preceding vowel is a or I, back unrounded, back bikaya, u if the preceding vowel is o or u, back rounded, corking, a 1/4 if the preceding vowel is a paragraph or a 1/4, front rounded, gar paragraph a gar paragraph ra 1/4 year. R of year may be dropped in colloquial speech. To form the negative of the past continuous tense, the negation suffix ma/me, which becomes me, ma plus or minus, mu, or ma 1/4 because of the closed auxiliary vowel and the vowel harmony, must be added before y. Examples: the epenthetic consonant y is inserted between mu and do. As mu and do succeeds la instead of y when the subject is the third person plural, on la, they become ma plus or minus and da plus or minus. Semitic languages, especially the ancient forms, do not make use of the imperfect tense with verbs. Instead, they use the imperfective and perfective aspects, respectively. Aspects are similar to tenses, but differ by requiring contextual comprehension in order to arrive at whether or not the verb indicates a completed or non-completed action. Dravidian languages. Malayalam. In Malayalam, there are two indicative imperfects, corresponding exactly with English, one a permil aa 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron endings, for example, aa ya micro aa 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron. Was running. 2 a permil a registered trademark a 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron endings, for example, aa ya micro a registered trademark a 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron. Used to run. To form the was doing imperfect, take the infinitive ending in a permil a, for example aa ya micro a to run, and add the ending, aa 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron. To form the used to do imperfect, take off the a from the end of the car form and add a registered trademark a 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron in its stead. To make a verb in the imperfect negative, add aa squared a micro a squared a micron after the a permil aa part of the ending for the was doing imperfect. For example, aa ya micro aa squared a micro a squared a 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron. To do the same for the used to do imperfect, take off the a permil a registered trademark from the ending and add aa micro aa squared a micro a squared instead. For example, aa ya micro aa squared a micro a squared a 3/4 aa degree a micro a t micron. References